Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Full Credit to Not Another Rugby League podcast. I'm your special guest, former legend, and you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and the empty hallways of Blue Sky at former_legend. And let's kick off with what caught my senses in the past 7 days. And this week, it was the Today Show weather reporter, Taylor Haynes, who was doing a live cross from the Sydney fish markets on Saturday morning when a massive crab clamped onto her finger, resulting in her having to go to hospital. I immediately rang Philpy and we shared the PTSD from the time we were in Pattaya together in the late 90s and both ended up going to hospital because of crabs. Shout out to little former Somchai Jr. I hope you're doing well, little man. And everyone else down there at Madam Fling Flong's Ping Pong Bar and Laundromat. Righto, let's do a rapid recap for round 5, which of course was Jerry Can round, where traditionally in previous years fans would bring their jerry cans and the NRL would fill them as long as you had a valid ticket. But this year, due to the fuel shortage, the NRL filled everyone's jerry cans with craft beer, which tastes the same as diesel anyway. And we started on Thursday night when the Dolphins hosted the troubled Manly Seagulls at beautiful KO Stadium, a place where lights continually flicker all night. And even sitting on the ground, somehow you still get buffering. Manly had Kieran Foran making his coaching debut, and the boys came out firing, scoring 9 tries to 3 to win 52 points to 18 and give Foran a 100% win rate as a coach. Lots of Manly players obviously crossed the line for a meat pie, including Luke Brooks, which was a massive surprise to us Tigers fans, mainly because we thought he'd moved to England to play in the Super League around 2 years ago. For Manly, Woodstock Kohler again had a big game, scoring a try, setting up another, and breaking the line twice as well as busting 9 tackles. After the game, 2 things happened. Kieran Foran was immediately signed for 10 years as the Manly coach, so expect to see him sacked in 4 weeks, and the Warilla Gorillas officially withdrew their coaching offer to Anthony Seabom. The traditional Good Friday matchup saw the Easter Bunnies get the chocolates, you're welcome, against the Bulldogs 32 points to 24. At half-time, it was the Dogs up 18-12, but after the break, South scored 20 points in a row to decimate a Canterbury team who had less regard for quality ball than Ellen DeGeneres. After the game, Wayne Bennett looked happier than a smacky with a script pad, while his Bulldogs counterpart, Cameron Daddo, spent the press conference defending himself for not using Bronson Xerri from the bench when the Dogs lost captain Stephen Crichton to injury. His reasoning was hard to follow in the press conference, particularly when he kept saying, "I know you are, but what am I?" over and over again. The second game on Friday night saw the Panthers destroy the Storm in a domination, winning 50 points to 10 and handing Melbourne their 3rd loss on the trot. It was the first time in 20 years that a team put 50 on the Melbourne Storm and will heap more pressure on Craig Bellamy, who we exclusively revealed here a few weeks ago is likely to be the next coach sacked. Newcastle Knights discard Silky Milky Jenkins again hosed his opposition and became the first player in history to score 12 tries through 5 rounds of the competition. He's just the 6th player of all time to score multiple tries in 5 straight games, and spectators have already been asked not to run onto the ground when he goes past the great Alec Johnson's try-scoring record in 3 weeks' time, except for Albo. After the game, Craig Bellamy let it be known that he has requested for the Storm to be allowed to play in maroon jerseys next week in an attempt to get Cameron Munster interested in having a crack. Saturday afternoon at Carlton South Public School Oval, the Dragons utilised their home ground advantage against the travelling Cowboys to be whacked 30 points to 0 and give St George Illawarra their first 9-5 start in the Merger's history. The 950 fans in attendance all booed the Dragons at halftime as they headed to the sheds down 16-0, and showing that their fan base is nothing if they aren't consistent, they booed them again at full-time when they finished the game 32-0. Even when the Cowboys' lock welcome back Cotter was sin-binned, the Dragons couldn't find a way to score or even any evidence of an overlap. In fact, the Dragons were more likely to find a point on the shithouse lids of the members bar than they were on the field. And here's a little joke for you Dragons fans that you probably haven't heard this week. Knock, knock. Who's there? Owen. Owen who? Owen, you pricks are fucking hopeless. The second game on Super Saturday came from Bang Bus Super Stadium, and it was one of the more traditional local derbies when the Broncos took on the Titans. And it was a pretty simple 26 points to 12 win to Madge Maguire's men, who definitely wouldn't have taken any joy out of beating Gordon Tallis' team. And in one of the biggest shocks to absolutely nobody, Adam Reynolds suffered an injury early in the game with groin muscle soreness, which is being held together with clag paste, and it let him down again, limping off in the 25th minute. But the biggest concern out of this game for the Broncos was that Reece Welsh suffered a broken cheek. And what that means for the prettiest eyes in the game is anyone's guess. It's a cruel and angry God that lets Reece Walsh get a broken cheek, while punchable heads like Ezra Mam, Jordan Ricky or Katoni Staggs walk off untouched. Currently 350 teenage girls and Pete Bedell are holding a candlelight vigil at Red Hill while they await any news. Sunday, and the Sharks hosted the Warriors at a sold-out Ocean Outfall Stadium in front of 1,200 fans, and they walked away convincing winners 36 points to 22. In his comeback game, Luke Metcalf proved he was no Jesus Christ. His return only lasted 75 minutes before a hamstring let him go. Nacho Hines had his annual good game, 2 try assists, a line break and a tackle bust to go 6 goals, made for a great afternoon, which will have the Sharks fans trying to convince everyone that he's ready to play Origin again, just before it being made an immortal. In bad news for the Sharks, the Noodle, Jesse Ramingham, left the field with an MCL injury which could rule him out for a few weeks. The second game on Sunday, and the Knights hosted the Raiders, and the Canberra side left the Hunter with 4 straight losses, going down to the home team 32 points to 12. You have to feel for the Raiders team, who looked to be in shock playing in a stadium that wasn't on the verge of being condemned. It was said that some of the Green Machine were on the verge of tears when they seen doors that opened properly, with at least 2 of the Raiders blown away that they had running hot and cold water, as well as shitters that flushed. The Newcastle Knights New South Wales Cup team are said to be also looking forward to trying to find a spot for Dylan Brown and Kalen Ponga when they return from injury, and have not ruled out making the 2 backs starting a few games for the Maitland Pumpkin Pickers to get their form back and force their way into the Newcastle first grade team. And in the final game of the round on Easter Monday, Resurrection Day, it was a comeback for the ages when the team of destiny, the West Tigers, overcame a 10-point lead to the Eels to comfortably win 22 points to 20. This game shows what happens when a show-stopping team comes to play, with over 400,000 people crammed into Spurbank Stadium to see the Tigers play. And the biggest talking point of the game was with 4 minutes to go when Mitch Moses got a light brush across his face, but the milkman stayed down and fooled referee Peter Whitlam into awarding a penalty that broke an 18-all deadlock. But on this holiest of holy weekends, the team of all that is good went up the other end of the field and dragged out a penalty from referee Whitlam, which gave Lock Madden a chance to square the game up, which he did nicely. And then in the third set of Golden Point, one of the great blokes of the NRL, Dylan Walker, was caught offside to give Madden an easy goal to clinch the win. So that's round 5 done and dusted, boys. A round where the Tigers sit second on the table and have the Panthers pooping their pants as they look over their shoulder. Your reigning Wooden Spooners are up in third spot, which with their soft draw that got them there, but at least it gives a few Simpleton fans some hope. Meanwhile, Ricky's Raiders are parked near the bottom, proving that 2024 was just a glitch in the Matrix, and the Dragons are cemented to last, showing that they're in need of a renovation on their centre of excellence, or as they know it in Wollongong, the centre of. Back to you in the Nathan Brooks studio.